That video causing outrage this morning. It appears to show riot police in Maryland wailing on a student who's done nothing more than celebrate a basketball victory. Even more shocking, before this video surfaced, police claim the student had attacked them. That all has the FBI's attention, and Pierre Thomas has more.
March 3rd, near the University of Maryland's campus, just after a big basketball win over Duke. Students break out in the streets to celebrate, with some getting rowdy, pulling down signs as one of them tapes this video. Watch what happens when this student, who at first is doing a silly dance, apparently gets too close to this mounted officer. Police pounce, slamming the student against the wall. You can hear the sound of the batons hitting as the police deliver blow after blow on 21-year-old John McKenna. Justifiable force, or was this excessive and unprovoked beating? Here's what the police said happened. They charged McKenna with disorderly conduct and assault. The police report said McKenna struck officers and their horses, causing minor injuries. McKenna, police said, was kicked by the horses and sustained minor injuries. None of this is evident on the tape. The student who shot the video requested to remain anonymous. Watch again. You never see McKenna hit anyone, and you don't see the horse injure McKenna.
This is my own flesh and blood getting whacked there. It was a pretty moving moment.
On Monday, charges against McKenna were dropped, and there are a lot of questions about what happened right here at this spot. Were McKenna's civil rights violated, and did police file a false report?
This kid would have been charged with assault on a police officer, which is a felony. His career, by virtue of that arrest, would have been over.
Police are vowing to conduct a thorough probe.
So far, we have suspended one of the officers involved in the incident, and we expect some additional suspensions.
The videotape doesn't lie. For Good Morning America, Pierre Thomas, Prince George's County, Maryland.
And joining us live now from Riverdale, Maryland, is John McKenna's attorney, Chris Griffiths. Good morning, Mr. Griffiths.
Good morning.
You know, I've got the charging statement here. It says that your client suffered only minor injuries and he actually refused treatment when he went to the hospital. How badly was he hurt, and how's he doing today?
Well, he was, as you can see from the video, he was struck several times in the head. He received he lost consciousness. He received a concussion. He had a laceration to the top of his head, which required about 8 staples. He had contusions, primarily on his forearm, that appeared to be, defensive type wounds where he's covering his head from the blows. And so those are the injuries he sustained. He's a young man, young, strong man, and he's recovering from the physical injuries, but obviously there was quite a bit of emotional distress that he suffered as a result of the incident.
I would imagine, and there's so many contradictions between what that tape shows and what is in the charging document. The charging document also says that your client struck the officers and their horses. So how do you explain the gap between what's in that charging document and what's being shown on this tape?
Well, it's clear the charging document is nothing more than a cover for the officer's misconduct. You have to understand that by, first of all, charging him, they are able to justify any injuries. The way in which the charging document was written up was designed specifically to avoid their having to prepare additional reports, which would have further exposed the acts of the officers. And so it's clear that that document was designed to cover up the misconduct.
But the Prince George's County Police spokesman, Major Andy Ellis, said he agrees that the charging document isn't supported by the video, but he says it's not a cover-up, it's a miscommunication.
That's an interesting spin on it. You know, the charging document is prepared under penalties of perjury. The officer who prepared the document is an experienced, what they call a special assignment team officer. He's been involved in many arrests, and he knows the gravity of what it is he prepared. And so to say that there was a miscommunication, I think, is a real, really just furthers the cover-up here.
You say, excuse me for a second, you say the police also told your client not to mention that he was treated by emergency medical technicians on the scene?
Absolutely. Again, in the event that an individual is actually struck by an officer, there are certain reports that have to be prepared, which creates a paper trail by which people can be held accountable. On the way to the hospital, Mr. McKenna had been provided at the scene some medical care by EMTs. He had a bandage on his head. On the way to the hospital, the officers, on the way to the jail, the officers removed the bandage from his head and told him, look, if you want to go home tonight, don't complain about your injuries. If we have to take you to the hospital, you're going to spend the weekend in jail. And when he got to the jail saw that he was bleeding, saw that he needed medical treatment, and under their guidelines, had the officers take him to the hospital. Again, this was an attempt to, if they didn't have to provide him with medical treatment, then they wouldn't have to prepare the reports that explained how he got his injuries.
That sounds outrageous. We're just about out of time. Just one final question. We now know the FBI is investigating to see if a felony was committed. Will your client also be filing a lawsuit against the police department and these officers?
Yeah, he really has no control over whether a prosecution occurs or these people are put in jail, but the one thing he can control is try to get some measure of justice through a civil suit, and he intends to do that within the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.